ready. I'd like to call to order tonight's September 16th meeting of the Maumelle City Council. Absent with our Mayor Norton. My name is Michael Terry. I'll be sitting in for him. We're also absent Ward 3, Ms. Weems is also absent tonight too. But we have a quorum, so we're going to proceed, and we'll start with the invocation and pledge by Mr. Gardner.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you so much, Lord, for this day that we can come and conduct the people's business, God. We're thankful, Lord, for the rain that we've received over the last couple of days, Father. Just thank you so much for that refreshing time that we've had to enjoy, Lord. We had the change of seasons coming up, and we're so thankful that we get to live in this beautiful city and enjoy your handiwork here in Maumelle, God. We ask for wisdom tonight as we talk about the city's business, especially as it relates to some big changes that we need to make for our city, Lord. We just ask for wisdom and understanding and all that we have to consider tonight. And we're thankful especially for all those that work in this city each and every day to make this a great place to live, Lord. We just ask for your protection on all those that serve the residents each and every day. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. All right, so we don't have any public comments tonight, so I guess we'll move on to department reports. All right, so we're just going down to approval of the minutes. Anybody have any comments about or corrections they'd like to make on the minutes from last week? I'd entertain a motion to approve it.
Approve the minutes. Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Can we get a call? What's the best way to say vote? All right, everybody in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so motion passed.
All opposed?
All opposed? No, okay, motion passed. And so now we'll move on down to the financial statement review by Beatrice Souza.
Good evening. Tina, can you put it? Perfect. Okay. What I did this time for you guys is to highlight in yellow what I would like to comment in order you can follow, because I received some comments that sometimes I go very fast, but I'll try to do it slowly. But if you have any question, just stop me and I try to explain you.
All right, very good.
So in page 1, we have at the beginning the revenue. So most of the expected revenue from tax collections are in line with budget. If you see, the property tax is 116,000 more than 2023, meaning that the taxpayers starting paying annual taxes, property taxes, due on October 2014 already. So looks like we are in line with budget. The other comment I want to do is the city and county sales taxes collected during 2024 is 125,000 lower than in 2023. But we will not adjust this revenues line this year, and as it is compensated for the additional revenue that we have had in other lines. In planning and permits department, as you know, we have an increase in building permits collections during 2024. And in investment earnings and miscellaneous revenues, as you know, we have better return for 2024 as we have all year benefit versus half year in 2023. And in miscellaneous revenue, next page, Tina. Perfect. I stay. And we have the insurance claims revenue in 2024 in this line. If we go to the second part, Tina, please. Those are the expenditures. In here, I highlighted for you the police and fire These expenditures are higher in 2024 due to salary and benefit increases. We also have in senior services, it looks like a big increase, but this is because we have had additional expenditures as professional study for the indoor swimming pool, the roofing and other repairs for the building. We have 3 services in grounds maintenance. And then in city services, expenditures, they look very high than versus 2023, but we have the reasons. First, the audit, the computer maintenance and insurance expenditures are higher in 2024. The operational transfers approved in budget were processed. So we transfer from the general fund to capital improvements, the $3.2 million. It is 3.1 million for the training facility and 180,000 for the engine 1 and 2. And then in that, the last line that I highlighted here in Fund 101 was the capital expenditures. We have had, in parks, we have payments for $740,000 for the pickleball complex construction that was done in 2024, the software conversion for police department, the police vehicles that we bought this year, and we implemented or installed the camera systems and door access for the police department, for the senior center, and the community center. If you go to the page 2, please. Here we have the fund balance. In the fund balance, as of August 2024, we have 9.9 million after the operational transfers. It means that we are okay, in a good health. The requirement for the fund balance is 4.7 million. That is 20% of the revised operational expenses. So we are above requirement for $1.5 million. Next page, Tina, please. Here we have the street fund. In the street fund, the state turnback is higher, but if you notice, it is compensated with the city street aid program revenue. So we are okay in street revenue. In the bottom, we have the expenditures. The main expenditure is the operational transfer to Club Manor Corridor for the $1.2 million that we did this year. And it has been also an increase on salaries that is reflected in this line. In the capital expenditures, we have path improvements, street overlays, stripping. We also have the purchase of a truck, and we have other street equipment. If you go a little bit down, Tina, we can see the street fund. The street fund is $4 million. So, and this is after the operational transfer. So we are okay in the fund balance. In the next page, Tina, please, we have the sanitation fund. In the sanitation fund, I know you are going to talk about this today, but the state turnback is higher and compensated, the sanitation expenditures are lower than previous year, as we have not done any capital expenditure yet. I saw that you approved something for this year. So we run the adjustment for 2023 in financials. We capitalize the fixed assets, and we just present the depreciation to give a leverage on this fund. So as of August 2024, we have $1 million as a fund balance. In the next page, Tina, please, we have the police and fire fund. And this is just for informative purposes only, because we have as a trend the collection of the 0.5% of our regular basis. So no problem. That's all what I have for today on financial numbers. We have some financial updates for you. The auditors finished the field work last week. They are still working in their offices, but the plan is to have the final report issue during November at the latest. So I think that we are in a very good path there. We also finalized this month the renewal for all the CDs that the city has as an investment, and we were able to renegotiate all of them with an average rate of 5% for the city. We started the 2025 budget, and we expect to distribute for you by October 25, more or less, or the beginning of November. But it is open, and the different departments are already working with me to have it ready for you guys. And we continue with the fixed asset model implementation within OpenGov, that is our software. That's all what I have for today.
Thank you for your report. Any questions from the council? Mr. Mosley?
Yeah, did you say something about renegotiating some CDs? Is that
Yes.
what you said?
Yes, as you may be aware, we have around $2 million invested in CDs since 2008, I think, in this city. So what we have to be sure is that we, every year, are renegotiated, and we get the best interest for the rate. So that's the renegotiation for the rate, and we were able to close at 5%.
5%, okay. Thought you said 1 or 2%, and I thought, oh, I know it's better than that. So anyway.
No, we have
you
2
got it.
million,
Yeah.
we renegotiated them at 5%.
Yeah, that's very good. I remember you found this, that we weren't renegotiating every year, and we were getting almost nothing as far as interest on all that money. Was that money, was it missing? Did you know it was, once you came in, you took a look at all that and found that it hadn't been renegotiated for years, but was it even on the books? Did you know where it was?
No, it was in the books. The money is always in the books.
Okay.
It's reflected there. It was just like if you don't go and negotiate with the bank or renegotiate with the bank, they give you automatic rates.
Okay.
So it was what we call a cost of opportunity. So we lost that.
Okay, thank you on that. Are the auditors through their field work? Are they
They
still?
finish.
Field work, are they still gonna be out here in the office, or?
They finish the field
They
work.
finished that, okay. So, okay, you may be reissuing that report then in 6 weeks, is what you're saying.
Yes, that's what we
that's great.
expect.
Are you gonna be sticking around here, because we've got a ordinance here on electronic transfer of firearms and not public funds, and I'll probably
Yes.
have a question for you. So
Yes, I'm going to be.
that's all I've got, thank you.
All right, any other questions? I'd entertain a motion to approve the financial report.
So moved.
Motion is passed. Or any opposed? Sorry, I didn't hear it. Everybody said approved, so I didn't realize I had to say yeah, opposed. So, no opposed, so motion is passed.
Say all in favor?
All in favor? Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Motion is passed.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody bear with me, this is my first time. Okay, so now let's move on to Planning Commission report by Mr. Shin. Okay, so that's out of order in the paper, okay. All right, well, I guess first, before we do that, we'll do a procedural motion to read all ordinance by title only.
I'll make that motion.
All right,
Second.
all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passed. Any opposed? All right, now motion passes. So now can we go to Mr. Shin? Okay, so he's not doing it tonight. Okay. All right, so first item of business is unfinished business ordinance 1132. We are going to have a speaker by Mr. Doug Ford. He advised us that he may be running late. Is he in attendance yet?
Not here yet.
All right, thank you. With the approval of the, sorry. Well, with the approval of the council, we will move this to later in the meeting so they give Mr. Ford time to arrive. And I guess we will move on to new
Chairman?
business.
If you'd like, I'll make a motion to move that to the end of,
Okay, we gotta have a motion, all right.
yeah, I think, shouldn't we, Mr. City Attorney? How about I'll make a motion that we move unfinished business to the end of new business. We can do new business first.
All right, very good, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passed. Let's see, we're moving that to the end now. All right, so you do want to go ahead and read this? Okay, well, let's go ahead and read, do the reading of the ordinance, 1132.
I made a motion to move unfinished business, all of unfinished business until the after
Right.
new business. So we should be on ordinance 1133.
Right. All right, so let's go on to new business, first reading of ordinance 1133.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1133, an ordinance to authorize Unity Fiber LLC and its successors in assigned contracts, maintains and operate communication networks within the City of Maumelle, Arkansas, including a license to use the city's right-of-way, etc., in non-residential zones only, to levy a franchise tax, to approve a license agreement, and for other purposes.
Mr. City Attorney, I believe you have some comments?
Yes, sir. We met with representatives from Unity Fiber in City Hall. They're wanting to work not in residential areas, but in commercial and industrial. That's just their business. They don't operate directly to consumers and the like. And they're requesting a franchise agreement so that they can start digging in the city's right-of-way and so forth. I began with just the form franchise agreement. It was the last one adopted. I believe it was 3 years ago. I made very clear, explicit in the franchise agreement and in this ordinance that it applies in non-residential zones only, because I know how much the residents have brought to the council members' attention and to the mayor's and other city staff's attention the issues we're having with excavation in residential zones. So this only applies to non-residential zones, only applies to easements and rights-of-way in non-residential zones. 4.25% is the standard franchise fee that we use. I'm happy to answer any questions about the agreement or proposed agreement if anyone has any questions.
Mr. Mosley?
How many more, can you give me an overview of how many of these things we currently have in Maumelle, what the competition is, the options, various options that people have?
Yes, sir.
And whether it looks like there's going to be people wanting to do more residential as time goes?
As far as residential goes, let me think. Mr. Grimmer, do you recall offhand, you handle all the excavation permits, about how many utilities do we have operating in residential areas?
As far as telecommunication,
Yes, sir.
or?
Yeah.
So right now, we only have 3 telecommunication companies that I'm aware of that are operating in residential areas. It's Xfinity, Comcast, Fidelity, and then AT&T. To my understanding, Unity that's coming in, they're taking over or buying out Windstream Communications, which already has services in the city of Maumelle. So they're going to be taking over some of those, to my understanding, and they're just wanting to make sure that they have the right agreements with the city. As far as commercial, I don't get as involved in the commercial because it doesn't impact the city as much, and it does provide opportunity for all of our commercial entities to have those type of options out there, different options. So,
Mr. Grimmer, do you recall if Windstream already has a franchise agreement with the city?
I would assume they do, but I'm not
Or
aware.
they might have the Secretary of State Certificate of Franchise Authority.
It's a possibility,
Can't
but
remember.
I would think that they would have an agreement with the city. That may be something we may need to check.
Let me check. I feel like I've checked on this. But in any case, this is just applying to commercial industrial zones.
That is correct. And just a reminder to council members, since the mayor's not selecting, be sure to push your buttons to speak so that the community can hear you.
Another question for you.
Yes, sir.
Do we have, are we, with Comcast, Fidelity, and AT&T, are we going to have enough options for 5G and all that? Do all three of those going to be supplying 5G networks and that sort of thing?
Well, now 5G is dealing with wireless, if I'm not mistaken. So we're, what AT&T and Fidelity and Comcast, they're providing new upgraded services that are wired services. AT&T has done 100% fiber install, and the majority of the city has been completed. They're finishing up some of their final installs. Fidelity is just now starting in parts of CCA, and those will be 100% fiber installs, so they're upgrading their services, and they would like to move around the city over time. Comcast, of course, they're doing their technology is a little different, so it's coax in the right of way, and then fiber to the houses. So the installation is a little different. I will say that one of the, and this is kind of off topic, but since you brought it up, some of the concerns that residents have right now going around the city with the Comcast installation is the above-ground pedestal boxes that are being installed. So AT&T was able to go underground because everything is 100% fiber, and that can be submerged in water and not affect their transmission of signal. Fidelity, they too will be going underground because it's 100% fiber, and that too can be submerged. Comcast, because they're putting coaxial in the main right-of-way, if they submerge it, if they put it underground, the submersion in water could impact their signalization. So that's why you have above-ground pedestals, and that is allowed by ordinance. So just wanted to pass that along to you.
Mr. Grimmer, can we get to a point where we just say we've got plenty of options for the residentials and say no more? I mean, we're going to have 3 entities here going, and we're going to have more damage and everything else before it's over with. And I just wanted, is there any reason we can't say, okay, that's it, no more?
Well, I think that there's certain rights that telecommunication companies have as far as providing services, but we have discussed internally, and one thing that we may look at doing is bringing an ordinance update that may place the emphasis on meeting or exceeding the best technology that we have. So if another company wants to come in, if they're not at least meeting or exceeding what we currently have, then maybe we can put limitations on that. We think maybe by doing something like that could prevent things like above ground pedestals, things that are below ground may be better. But I can't really answer that because there are certain rights that they have.
Any comment on that, Mr. City Attorney?
It's complicated. There's a state law that some of these telecommunications utilities operate under, which is called the Arkansas Video Service Act, that allows those providers to apply for a franchise certificate directly from the Secretary of State. That gives them the right to use cities and localities, rights of way, easements, so on and so forth, in exchange for a franchise fee. And so ordinarily, these franchising agreements are essentially just contracts. So ordinarily, I think a city would be in a better position, a stronger position to just say, well, we've already got franchise agreements with 4 of your competitors, so we're going to decline to make a contract with you. Well, this state law, for at least video service providers, takes cities out of the equation. So it's pretty complicated. There's also a federal law that I think requires cities and governments to have generally equal access. Is it possible that at some point physically there's no more room in the ground? Yeah, I mean, that's a physical possibility. So I can't give unfortunately, it really depends on the facts and what kind of evidence we could marshal.
Good. Yeah, it's a shame we can't have just a common carrier. That I'm in the natural gas business, and the pipelines were deregulated about 30 years ago to where they have to carry everybody's gas and account for it, and there's just one pipeline, but there's many buyers and sellers on there. It's a common carrier, and it's a shame we can't have that in that business. Hopefully somebody will figure out a way at some point. But, all right, I think that's all I've got. I'm very interested that this applies only to residential, so thank you so much.
Only to commercial.
Excuse me, to commercial.
Thank you for the report, Mr. Drummer. Any other questions? All right, then we'll move on to the first reading of ordinance 1134.
Being enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1134, an ordinance to authorize the payment of certain municipal bills via electronic funds transfer and for other purposes.
All right, Mr. City Attorney, do you have
Yes,
comments?
I was researching somewhere else and came across the fact that state law says that city council has to pass an ordinance before we can start paying things with EFT. It also imposes certain best practices requirements that are issued by the Joint Committee for Legislative Audit, and I've attached those to it. So this is just fulfilling that state legal requirement.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Gardner?
Do we currently not have any electronic payments that we make as a city?
No, I think we do make payments as a city. We just
Did not have an
overlooked that
ordinance.
an
Okay.
extra ordinance was also required.
Okay, I guess I feel better about that. I was actually shocked that we did not make any payments online in today's age. So, okay, so this is really standardizing that process and making it into an ordinance then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Mosley?
Yeah, have we already developed it? It talks in here about, in the ordinance about, we will have written policies and procedures to comply with the attachment from the, I guess it's Legislative Audit Committee or something like that. And have we already developed those procedures?
I don't know, Ms. Souza, I know we have a written agreement and a written form. Yes. Can you come up to the microphone, please, ma'am? Thank you.
We have something developed, not like 100% written policy and procedure, but we have a form with all the requirements that are needed to put you in an electronic payment. So I will work on that to have it 100% completed and not oversee nothing. But the procedure is in place, and this is what we are working on. Since I started here, we started making electronic payments. Just not to everybody, just whoever fills out the form and meets the requirements. So that's the rule. So sometimes when they put like a complete policy and procedures with internal controls, they want step by step, and I don't have that, like step by step. I can work on that eventually, but I just have the general procedure in place.
Okay, we've had some rough going in our accounting department over the last 10 years, and hopefully it's getting better as far as procedures and
It's very
controls.
difficult. Mm-hmm.
Controls and things like that, and so I'm inclined not to vote for this until we have proper procedures in place.
Well, the procedure is in place. I can show it to you whenever you want. It is in place, and it is a proper how we set up the vendor in the system and how we do it. Now, you want to have a 1, 2, 3 step. We don't have that yet.
Do we have enough accounting personnel to have proper
I don't
controls?
have more hands. No, we are just for,
Because there's a lot of things here. They say dual authorization of transactions, this, that, and the other, so.
Well, do you remember that we already implemented the approval of the invoices within the OpenGov system? So we do have all of that procedure in place. So it's little by little how I have been implemented everything. And whatever we implement, since I'm here, we have a procedure.
Okay. Yeah, whatever you've got, I mean, at such time, before we vote on this, it'd be nice to see what we do have in place.
You want to see it? I can forward to you, Andrew, in order he can see whatever we have on this. Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll be thinking about this. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Director Souza. Any other questions or comments? All right, with that, we will move on to the first reading of ordinance 1135.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1135, an ordinance to amend the Maumelle City Code to adopt a code of ethics for all city boards and commissions and for other purposes.
I was asked a question by a member of the Public Facilities Board, and I realized that it was a requirement from her employer. And I realized that we hadn't ever formally imposed any kind of code of ethics, similar to what the city council members have on members of other boards. And so Mayor Norris just suggested we apply the same policy that applies for the city council members to boards of other commissions. And it also explicitly authorizes recusal, even if it isn't strictly required. It authorizes a member to recuse in an abundance of caution or to avoid the appearance of impropriety.
Any comments or questions from the council? Mr. Mosley?
Can we already, is it already possible for us to remove a commissioner if
Yes, I referenced, what is it, section 2-563 as a removal procedure. I think it requires 2/3 majority vote, if I'm not mistaken.
of the city council?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's for, I guess,
I think it applies to all boards.
okay.
But I'd have to double check.
And it would involve maybe proceeding to vote and discuss and everything else when they've got a vested interest in it or something like that.
Yes, I think it requires, I think it kind of contemplates the same way we do other appeals from city decisions where it's set on the agenda and the person is obviously given an opportunity to defend themselves and say, here's why you shouldn't or should. You may have recalled maybe about a year ago, the Little Rock Board of Directors had an issue where they were trying to remove members of, what do they call it, the Metropolitan Housing Authorities, I
Yeah.
think is. And that's what I imagine the procedure would be similar to.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? All right, well, this will go on to the second reading at our next meeting. We'll move on to the next item of business, Resolution 2024-36.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2024-36, a resolution to amend the 2024 General Fund Budget.
All right, this item is to deal with increases in telephones and utilities. Would anybody like to comment about this?
I'll make a motion to approve
All right.
2024-36.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second? All right, all those in favor?
Yes.
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 All those opposed? All right, motion passes. And that moves us back to the new business as Mr. Ford arrived yet. Well, let's go ahead and, since this is our last item for discussion, we'll go ahead and talk about this and hope that maybe Mr. Ford will arrive while we're going. Could I get the city clerk to read the title, please?
Yes, sir. Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled ordinance number 1132, an ordinance to amend the Maumelle City Code to increase the solid waste collection fee and for other purposes.
All right, this is on its second reading tonight. There have been some new numbers offered to us. Anybody have any comments that they would like to discuss about this? Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, I looked briefly through the report that was attached here in the packet, and it looks like they've changed the number that we've got in there. We've got 2272 in there. And it looks like they changed it in their study to like 23 something or other. I would assume, should we change that? Should we change it to the new number as far as,
Another question.
I mean, we can leave it the way it is, it doesn't matter, but,
Well, one thing we might want to consider just maybe rounding it up to a whole number, 23. We don't want to be constantly, a year or two from now back at it, because since we cannot do an automatic increase. But let's, Mr. Hogan, would you like to make some comments about this?
Yeah, I've got some of the notes that was sent from Mr. Ford to the mayor that I can kind of read off to you.
Yes, please, thank you.
The mayor had emailed Mr. Doug, only had 2 council members reach out to me with possible questions for Monday night. I have included their questions below. My question would be, should we not consider a slightly higher increase of $8 to help offset future increases? And Mr. Ford's response was, the study recommended allowing the council to adjust the collection rate by the consumer price index each year. The city of Little Rock can adjust the tipping fees for the landfill by the PCI each year. The 2024 PCI adjustments is 3.1%. Assuming the CPI will be in the same range next year, the $23.13 might be adjusted up to $23.13 times 1.03, equaling out $23.85, or a 72 cent per customer per month adjusting, which will generate a 72 cent times 7,500 customers, equaling out $5,400 per month in revenue. So hopefully that, go ahead.
You just said 7,500 customers, which is fine, but they were showing 7,100 in there.
In the report.
In the report.
Okay, well, I'm just reading what it said here,
I know,
so yeah, yeah.
I'm with you. It's just, yeah, no, I'm with you, okay.
I got you. Yeah, another question is, since City Attorney Thornton advised we can not set up an automatic increase process, this might buy us an extra year or two before having to revisit the matter. So that was his second question. And then I think Mr. Mazzoni had a few questions that.
I did, and some of them actually come out. I don't know what we'll get out of reading them all. I can kind of summarize what I put down, but a lot of those with the new tables is kind of answered.
Okay.
But a lot of them I can actually rephrase with questions to you, which may be more pertinent down to your expertise, which you may or may not have.
Okay. So I've got some of the questions I think you had emailed with some of Doug Ford's answers. So I don't know what would be easier for you. So I can kind of, you can ask me any questions that you would like. I know one of the questions, do we have a major capital expenditure coming in the next few years? And Mr. Ford said the city could answer that. So I don't know, yeah, I don't know of any big, huge expenditures.
Yeah, the intent of that one was just to kind of looking at, I mean, this whole budget's gonna come down to a few things. Our people, our operating expenses, and then capital. So if we can kind of average that out across the long term, as Mr. Mosley brought up before, that would work out well. So I tried to average it, but I know things got a little confusing with COVID because some things didn't get purchased in one year and moved to the next. So as best I can figure is around, we've been spending the past few years around 300,000 in capital expenses when you prorate that. You know, and we can talk about more, but that was kind of the intent on that, if we average that.
Gotcha.
Does that seem realistic? I mean, we don't want to hold you on it because you weren't expecting that, but.
Right, so the 2 trucks that we're getting this year, I know that was a big hit to sanitation. So once we get those, I don't anticipate on getting any more trucks for the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
And that's assuming we don't have truck fires or, you know, an accident that just wipes one out. So, yeah, I'm hoping we're good for the next 3 to 5 years with trucks.
So what on average would be a truck cost?
About 315,000.
About
And
315.
that's steadily going up each year.
Okay. So, and as far as manning, how far down are we? Trying to get a good,
So, total in Public Works, right now, we were 20 positions down. We have hired 2 people, 1 thrower and 1 driver. Sanitation only, we're down 4 thrower positions and 2 CDL driver positions. So, we're down 6 total right now in sanitation. And I can't remember off the top of my head exactly how many sanitation's got in it. I know we got 55 employees through Public Works. I'm guessing 14 in sanitation and down 6.
so that's a and that kind of bases, because if looking through his numbers, all his expenses for manning is historical what was spent. So it's hanging out, and that matches because it's around 65% of what has been budgeted as to what his expense is what he put in his report, which kind of shows a little bit worse based on current manning. So that's something that money then is based on keeping the steady state, not improving the manning to a healthy level, which is another thing we have to figure out, because throwers now are more cyclical. We need some all year, but we need more in the summer. Is that correct?
No, we need them all year round because
do we do?
those routes run weekly.
Okay, so it's steady state. We don't increase in the summer. We pretty much need them.
Right.
Okay.
It's steady year round for sanitation.
Was more finance, and answered that, the CPI. Another question I answered, and they might have, he said, and this would have been my question 7 on there, that waste management has increases in accordance with the CPI. So my question was, did he have like a 5-year, how much they increased in 5 years? Because something to have us plan, because if we went the waste management route for recyclables, that will increase every year as well on that one. I didn't know if he had those numbers or.
No
Okay.
numbers on that. So, yeah, just has, Waste Management has yearly increase, in their contract, that follows the CPI, but no numbers.
So, and the other one, I asked him if we elected the waste management option, because he stated we could decrease a truck driver and a crew, but I think that was assuming we were 100% manned, which we are not. So, if we went that route, because we base savings on losing people, you wouldn't be able to lose any people right now, correct?
Not right now.
So, so it would just be basically 3 slots that aren't even manned that we would lose. So we would have to incorporate that whole $6 and I think 8 cents into monthly if we went through that. That savings will not be there. So that's a big extra amount. And do you know the average salary of at least the surrounding areas? I don't know if you know this or not, or if he brought up that, because part of it is, if we're not paying enough on our surrounding communities, we can raise our rates, but we will never increase our manning unless we fund it for what's sufficient, equal pay for around. So
Correct.
did he happen to answer that, or?
He stated in here, what is the average salary for a thrower and a driver in the Little Rock area? Said I will try to obtain information prior to the meeting on Monday. He stated in here on another line, the city of Little Rock pays CDL drivers $18 per hour and throwers and laborers $15.50 per hour. So, yeah, they're a little bit lower than, I believe Sherwood, or Little Rock is. So I think Sherwood, I believe, is $17 an hour on labor and $21.95 for CDL drivers. And we come in at
About 14 and change.
14.25 with our laborers, and our CDLs come in at 16.25, I believe. So, yeah.
So that's gonna change all the math if we decide, in my opinion, if we're gonna do this, we do it right. Look at what we need. Sanitation, we can't fail. So we need to figure out how to alleviate, we can't have the director running around on a truck just to keep runs going. That's
I don't mind, it gets me away from the phone calls sometimes.
I got that, and trust me, we appreciate that, so trash doesn't fill up, but, it can't be our long-term goal. So I think we need to sit back, run the numbers, and come out with what is a realistic number. What I don't wanna do is increase the rates to people and come back later and go, yeah, it didn't work, we need to increase them more. That's not gonna be good for anyone. So, that's all I have right now. I can run some numbers based on these and come out with kind of an estimate, but if you look at, it's gonna be significant, because in 2023, they said we expensed just in personnel $666,000. We actually, if we were fully manned, to be healthy, it was, just in personnel, was $1,040,000. So we're running, like I say, those numbers are 40% lower than what we budgeted for what's required. So that is gonna make a big difference. If we wanna be competitive and keep a healthy program, there's gonna be some cost involved. And that's my soapbox for tonight.
Well, Mr. Hogan, facing all the numbers and having the insight that you do you have any suggestion on what possibly we should change the rate to? Put you on the spot here.
I don't. Yeah, I know. I see both sides of it. I'm not a resident of Maumelle, but I've worked here for 21 years. I totally understand. The sanitation rates need to increase. No question about it. Salaries probably need to increase to keep up with demand. But as far as a number, I don't have a number I could throw out there that would be beneficial, I don't think.
Gotcha. Thank you for your input there.
Okay.
So it sounds like talking to Mr. Mazzoni.
Yeah, one question, and I'm not gonna hold you on the spot for an answer today, but to come back, if you could get with me for the next meeting to find out what we think of is a more competitive salary to help us out. I don't wanna just throw stuff out, the feel of the people, and then we can, in the background, come together with what is a more, salary that would be workable. Does that make sense?
All right, and I've got something somewhat put together right now that, might be some help, so.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Gardner.
Steve, do you want to go ahead? You had some follow, I'll follow Mr. Mosley.
Okay.
Councilmember
Uh,
Mosley.
Yeah, I was wanting to ask you, you've got a lot of people under your deal other than, just trash and so on. How does the thrower's salary compare to other areas of Maumelle? I mean, are they kind of below an average of somebody that does similar work or, yard work or whatever like that? Or are they above or?
You mean private businesses?
No, I'm talking about here at the
or
city.
Within the city?
Yes, sir.
I don't, I think labor across the board is pretty much the same, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I do know that, the mayor put in some targeted positions in last year's budget, I think with CDL drivers and labor positions. So yeah, I'm not real aware of what some of the other departments start their laborers off at, versus ours, so.
Yeah, that might be interesting because the throwers, that's a hard job, right? That's a
It's
real
tough,
hard job.
yeah, it's demanding and you're out in the elements.
You
and
probably
it's-
get your fingers pinched and all that stuff, throwing tree limbs in the trucks and stuff, so.
Yeah.
To me, it seems like that would be reasonable to have a higher rate of pay there and maybe get up closer to Little Rock and stuff, just to get people out here. 'Cause,
Right.
as Mr. Mazzoni said, you gotta have trash and you gotta have
Yeah,
potholes
and,
filled.
my goal is,
So-
if we could get, increases up to where, if they just started here, they were, inclined to stay, would be
Yeah.
nice instead of,
Yeah.
going somewhere else, for more money.
Well, getting back to our ordinance here, I still like the way it's written. I still like just raising the rates here to maintain what we're doing. And, the only thing, they did raise the number that we've got 2272 in there a week for the revision. And I think, and I don't know if I can find it again real quick, but it seemed like they got it up to 23. 2313, should we modify that, or you just want to stick with this 2272, which is fine with me, it's close enough. Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, just to go back to yours, I guess, first, Mr. Mosley. I feel comfortable with the numbers, the math that they have here to get to that 2313. But I'll echo Mr. Mazzoni's comments about these expenses were all based off of sorely being understaffed. So if we change our expense model, raise salaries, that's going to affect it. But I look at it a couple of different ways here. The way they have structured this, they're talking about building in a reserve of $3.90. So a portion of that, basically, let's just say half of the increase that we would do is going to be going into a reserve. Councilmember Mazzoni and I were talking about this, and that's kind of built into perpetuity. And obviously, our expenses are going to go up as time goes on, and that reserve that we're contributing to would get less and less and less over time as our expenses go up. I think I feel comfortable with the number of whatever we've got now, 2313. So in terms of amending the ordinance that we have and going with the 2313, I agree that I think we should do that at this point, but I think we need to look at it long-term as well of, is our staffing going to increase? With what Mr. Mazzoni was asking about, should we be competitive with other cities? I don't necessarily know that we need to be competitive with what other cities pay a thrower. I think the people that are taking the thrower positions are taking a job. And so I think we need to be competitive with the local job market. I don't know that they're going to drive over to Sherwood or to Jacksonville to be a thrower. I think they are, I don't know where they live, but they may be local to the community or area where they're getting a job. And so I think we need to be more competitive as a job rather than someone that might be a thrower in another city. So I would be comfortable with moving to that 2313. Is that the number that's? Yeah, 20, it's changed so many times. I feel comfortable with the 2313, but I do have in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like Mr. Mazzoni is, if we, and not if, I think we need to increase CDL pay. I think we need to increase thrower pay. What that ends up doing is it's going to increase our cost. It's going to take away from this reserve amount that we're kind of building into it. But that reserve amount is some extra fluff there that allows us to do that. And it still, I think, would allow us to grow our reserves. Because based on what they're proposing now, and again, I was using 7,100 customers, which is what was in their charts. And of course, keep in mind, as we grow as a city, we get more revenue, and really our fixed costs stay the same. So that is additional revenue that would come online as new residents move in. But we're looking at $650,000 in additional revenue if we went with that 2313. So I think pay increases would absorb some of that, but not all of it. So I feel much more confident in the 2313 than I did their 22 number that they gave us previously, with the exception of we need to look at our salary structure. So.
Okay. Also, they're not gonna be buying any new trucks and stuff for, what'd you say, 4 or 5 years?
I hope not to have to buy any more sanitation
Okay,
trucks
so
for
that-
3 to 5 years.
That would help also, so. All right.
And keeping in mind, this will reset it to first reading as well, and so we're still talking another month before we actually.
Oh, we could do 2 readings tonight if you.
Get it back on schedule.
Yeah, we could, and we have to raise the rates. It's not been done in 18 years, and so fiscally responsible, you have to adjust them. So I certainly wouldn't. I would vote for having 2 readings. Of course, that's going to make us vote on this 1st of October, first meeting of October.
That's right.
So October the 7th, I believe. And again, I'm comfortable with that. I think we may need to do some fine tuning, in a future year, once we get salaries looked at again. So.
Okay.
All right, so do I hear a motion to adjust the?
There's still discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Does anybody else have a comment? All right. Councilmember Shin.
Well, we're talking about the CDL. The median pay for a bus driver is $21 an hour. And so you can drive a bus 6 hours a day and make just about as much as we do here driving full-time. So currently. So that's a $4 step just to get to what an experienced bus driver makes. So I don't know if we have enough numbers yet to make a decision. I'm kind of with Mr. Mazzoni. I'd like to see more especially on the payroll end. If we look at local pay, a thrower, if he has a clean record, can go out here at Tractor Supply and start at $20.50 an hour. And that's what we're competing with. We're not competing with another garbage company, sanitation company. I don't know that we've got enough numbers here to make this decision yet.
You think it would go down?
No, I don't think it'll go down.
And that's.
And that's why I'm saying, but here's the thing, we say 23 now, and then we come back a year and a half from now and say, well, that wasn't enough. I'd rather say 26 now and live with it for 6 years. I may be the minority in that.
No, actually, that's not a bad idea. So, Councilmember Rundle.
I tend to agree with Councilmember Shin. I don't want to keep, kind of nickel and diming our residents. Speaking as a resident, I mean, I'm not excited to raise it too much either, but I mean, like we said, we haven't raised it in so long, it has to be. And so the 2313, I'm cautiously comfortable with, but also looking at that chart up there, that doesn't even get us close to Sherwood, and furthermore, so a lot of those cities are not necessarily comparable to our city, the size and scope of our city, except for maybe Sherwood.
What about Cabot? I mean, I wish we had numbers for Cabot.
Right, that was my thought, is some of the other cities that we
Rough-wise, it's
typically
about
look
the
at
same.
are not on this chart, except for maybe Sherwood. So, I kind of envision us getting a little bit closer to Sherwood, or wanting to know what Cabot is. My concern with the report is that it didn't take things into consideration like other like-sized cities. Those are not like-sized cities. It also didn't take into account, the missing understaffed 6 positions that we have. That's kind of a concern of mine. So the 2313, you know, I'm comfortable with it, but I agree with Mr. Shin that I don't want to come back year after year after year and say, we got to keep raising and raising and raising. And I know other cities do that, but I kind of envision setting it at a comfortable rate where, you know, maybe we don't have to raise it, but every other year. So to me, you know, 2313 is still a little low, and I don't think we're where we need to be yet as far as numbers.
Thank you, that's kind of my thoughts too. Councilmember Mosley, did you have any other comments?
Well, I was gonna ask Mr. Mazzoni, the mayor's not here tonight, but I was gonna, you know, I've asked several times if we just left the rates the way they are, how long would it take to run out of cash in the thing? You know, is it gonna be 6 months, is it gonna be 2 years, 3 years? Do you have any clue on that, Mr. Mazzoni? Because you know, we're not in dire straits if we can go another 3 years, even at the current rates.
I haven't looked at it, but, just in general, we got $1 million left, and, I mean, just, granted, there's a lot more. We'll go with even at the average, that's best case, that's not without any other significant capital, I'd say 3 years, and it's exhausted, which we don't want to be in.
I
And
think
that's,
that's
Right,
generous.
well, that's why we're
yeah,
raising it now. but-
I'm saying that.
Yeah, I
that's
think
probably,
that's generous.
That's with no cost increases.
yeah, that's just steady state right now. So,
Okay,
I'd say sooner better than later to get on it.
right, well, I'm happy with what we got, and I guess if there's no more discussion, I'll just make a motion, we go ahead and change that number in there on page 1 to 2313, is that right? And then do 2 readings tonight and just kind of keep it on track, and we talk about it again next week.
Does anyone think that we should maybe change it to a higher number? Like what Mr. Shin suggested. Mr. Hogan?
We might, you know, talking about changing to a higher number, are we, you know, with salary rates, if we come up with something in-house, it's not gonna be perfect. My thoughts are, at some point, the way Public Works is short-staffed, an in-house Public Works salary study, because each departments are so diverse, whether it's street, grounds crew, fleet maintenance, building maintenance, animal services, and sanitation. You know, I guess the only, in my eyes, fair way of doing it would be an in-house salary study for the Public Works, and that's just a thought. So,
Thank you.
and I don't know if that would need to be done beforehand or after the increase, so. Right. Right.
All right, now how would we go about doing that? Is that something you do in-house, or?
That's something that we can do in-house and find good company that's reputable to do that.
All right, something, I guess, to consider in a future meeting then.
Yeah.
All right,
So there's
Yeah, I made a motion.
motion is on the floor.
all right, do I hear a second on
Well,
Mr.
I
Mosley's?
think we need to have 2 separate motions. One would be the increase, and then you need to have a separate one to do the multiple readings, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Do I hear a second on the, Mr.?
I'll second the motion
Okay.
to adjust the rate to 2313. Right.
Okay.
All right, so all in favor? Any more discussions first?
On this one, let's do the, what do you call it?
Roll call vote?
Roll call.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Well, can we discuss it for just a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were done.
Sorry, no, that's okay. And I understand the concerns that we may not be going far enough. I do get that. I also look at this going, this is $7.63 more than we're collecting now. And I don't want to sit on our hands and not do anything while we wait on studies of what potential salaries may be. And so that's why I would support at least doing this point now. I think we have a long way to go until we get a good number internally of what we're going to be doing. But I just don't want to sit on our hands while we wait on a study of what prospective salaries may be for prospective positions that we may not be able to fill. So that's my thought on it. So I do support at least changing this at this point.
All right, very good. Any other comments? Councilperson Grundle?
Yeah, I do agree with that. While I think a study is, certainly needs to be done, I don't want us to wait too long on this, because I think it's our intent to get this going sooner rather than later, and certainly before the first of the year, so we can start fresh.
Stop the bleeding.
Stop the bleeding. And I do want to clarify too, when I'm talking about the 2313 not being quite where I think that it should be based on what I've heard and read, yeah, I'm not talking about trying to get us up to $26. You know, I would have liked to talk to Mr. Doug Ford, thank you, Mr. Doug Ford, to ask him a couple of questions. But you know, my thought is even raising it 70, not quite 75, 85 cents, but even raising it 75 cents more from the 2313 would get us an additional $14,000 from our residents. So I don't want to raise it too much. I don't want anybody to misunderstand me on that. I do think that we can go ahead and vote for the readings, and if we need to adjust it more again at our next meeting, we can. That'll give us a little opportunity to talk through it some more, maybe ask Mr. Ford some more questions via email. But what I really don't want to happen is for us to pass something and then, you know, year after year after year, we have to keep raising it somewhat significantly and just feeling like we're kind of nickel and diming our residents. So I'd rather do it as best we can this first time.
All right,
That's all.
very good. Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Shin?
Just one. I really question the quality of this study, since it had so many flaws in it when we got the first version of it. The length of time it took to get the revisions, and the fact that he didn't show tonight.
I believe he had a meeting that wasn't going to get out until after 6, and he was going to try to beat feet to get here, but obviously the traffic
I
had
don't
something
know.
to say about that.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
I just know that we're here, we're making a substantial decision here, and we can't ask the man the questions with the problems we have with this paperwork, in addition to the fact we had trouble with this paperwork. And that really concerns me.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any other comments? All right, then on the motion to increase the.
Mr. Mosley requested a roll call on that motion.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. On the motion to raise it to 2313, can we get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Mosley,
Yes.
Councilmember Grunwald,
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Tierney,
Yes.
Councilmember Shin,
No.
Councilmember Holt.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. And then we have anybody who would like to make a motion to do the first and second readings of this, since it's going back to first reading now with the new rate.
I'll make that motion.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
I was just point, my point on that is, we don't have we're all saying, one, we don't have enough info right now to do it, but we want to vote on it next time. For me, those two aren't compatible, so, a yes vote means we're gonna vote for this price increase next time. So,
Unless we table it.
Correct.
going back to the first buys us some time to get good quality data.
All right, so, any other comments? Did we have a, Mr. Councilmember Shin?
I just wanted to agree with Councilmember Mazzoni.
All right, thank you.
I do think we need more information. I do not have confidence in the information that we have.
Very good, thank you. Any other comments?
I would just say, I may not vote for this, but I would be happy with it either way. I don't think it's that, yeah, I agree that it's urgent that we do it, but it's not one of those things that a month is gonna make a difference. Ultimately, would I vote for this at 2313? Yes, I will. But, yeah. I may vote for it and then, yeah, whatever, yeah, all right, thanks, that's enough.
So we do have a motion and a second. Do we have a second?
Is there a second?
There was a second.
So, all in favor?
Yes?
All-
Yes.
Can we do roll call on
Yeah,
this?
roll call,
There's a
please.
lot of shrugging going on.
Yeah.
Councilmember Mosley,
Yes.
Councilmember Grunwald,
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzoni,
No.
Councilmember Gardner,
No.
Councilmember Tierney,
Yes.
Councilmember Shin,
No.
Councilmember Holt.
All right, we measure, fails. So,
That's for the first reading.
yeah, so, yeah, going back to the first reading, so, you want to do the first reading tonight?
I'll make a motion to have the first reading of ordinance.
We don't need a motion for that.
Yeah,
Okay,
no?
can we have the first
That's what
reading?
we did.
All right, so it goes back to the first reading, and it will be on its second reading at the next,
So technically, she needs to read.
Yeah.
okay.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1132, an ordinance to amend the Maumelle City Code to increase the solid waste collection fee and for other purposes.
Thank you. So now it goes on to its second reading at our next meeting.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If any of the council members, because of course Mayor Norris is out this week, if you do have any requests, I'm sure if you directed them to his chief of staff, Ms. Roush, she can get working on those in his absence.
All right, thank you. So I guess now we're to mayor's comment. Mayor is absent. I'll just apologize for the poor job I've done, and I'll try to do better should it happen again there. Do we have any council member comments? Mr. Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to the news article on the court case that I put in the back of the packet here about the what went on and this lawsuit and what it was about. The bottom line for the lawsuit is that there's a need. The court ruling basically says you cannot discriminate on viewpoint in public comment or really even council member comments and things like that. And it also says that basically you cannot call somebody down for using inappropriate language and so on. Those are the two things that came about there on this. And so I had some discussions with City Attorney Thornton about this and the need to maybe change. There's one sentence in our public comment section of our packet. It says this privilege may be revoked by the mayor in the case of inappropriate language or comments. And so I think that sentence is actually referring to foul language or perhaps viewpoint or something like that. In other words, it's not even defined. It's almost like at the discretion of the mayor. Now, if the mayor were to probably go ahead and strike somebody down and say, you can't talk anymore, you've got to leave or whatever, they would have a right to probably sue us under freedom of speech, which was done on this court case in the back. Then there's also been a recent one in Surprise, Arizona, where a lady criticized the city attorney's salary and got, I think she was even handcuffed and taken from, because they had a rule like we've kind of got, but there's stricter than ours that said that you cannot criticize a city employee, anything about them. And the city attorney was actually a city employee. So anyway, she got removed forcibly and is suing. So what I would like to do, I think it's probably appropriate, since it appears to me that there's really nothing that somebody can say in public comment it should get them thrown out, that we probably should just strike that one sentence. And I was gonna ask, City Attorney Thornton tonight, what would be the procedure to do that, and then also just open up discussion, see what people think about that. But,
Along that lines, before you answer, Mr.
well,
Thornton,
do we need to do a resolution, ordinance, or can we just vote on it?
go ahead and answer that question.
I don't know where this text in the agenda came from. Online, we have agendas back to, I think, 2014 or 2015. It's exactly the same since then. It doesn't appear anywhere in the city code, so I don't know if a prior city council adopted an ordinance that said this is what's gonna go in our agenda, or if it was just drafted up by a prior mayor or city clerk or city attorney that we've just kind of copied and pasted. I will say, certainly, somebody couldn't be prevented from speaking during public comment just for criticizing city employees, obviously. That's probably among the highest uses of the First Amendment, is to criticize your own government. And I'm sure that Mayor Norris understands that, and obviously I'll always be here as well. So inappropriate language, probably the only thing that it could be applied to be honest, would be if somebody made criminal threats in the course of their public comment, like specific threats. There's a crime called terroristic threatening. Probably that's the only thing that could apply. And of course, I just say, and I was trying to rack my brain to see if there was kind of any other examples. I can't really think of anything else. You know, in this Massachusetts case, as I mentioned before, I think she got up there and she was calling them little Hitlers or something, and they were very offended by that. And obviously that's, you know, you tell, I think, I'm kind of surprised that they pursued it in litigation as far as the city did, as far as they did, because it seems fairly obvious, I don't know, to me, that if you do open up your council meetings and you create what we call a limited public forum for members of the public to just come in and comment, you therefore, at that point, you can't then say, well, we're not gonna let you up here if you call me a little Hitler. No, that's viewpoint discrimination, it's not allowed. We can have other restrictions like, well, if you wanna talk when we're here on unfinished business, it has to be related to ordinance number 1132. And we could put other restrictions on council members in the course of you might call this parliamentary debate. Those have been around since the founding, of course. There have been rules on, in Congress, for example, there have been rules on what representatives can say. You'll notice when you're on C-SPAN, they always say, well, the gentleman from Nebraska or the gentlelady from Mississippi, they do that because they're specifically not allowed, and they've never been allowed to refer to them, to refer to one another by name. And there are other rules, of course. So I'm not at all concerned about the rules on the council members, you know, speaking of other council members in a respectful fashion, so that sort of thing. In the course of a meeting, it doesn't, at least I think that's entirely defensible in our First Amendment history. But obviously, we couldn't prevent somebody from coming up and taking the stand to criticize us, and I don't think any of us would want that, and I don't think any of us would want that person to be gavelled down.
Yep.
As for whether it's, so I'll ask Ms. Timmons to see if she has an old ordinance that adopted it, or maybe somebody remembers. Maybe I'll ask Janine. She might remember. If it was a prior ordinance, it would need to be a new ordinance to overturn that. If it was just a resolution, then a resolution would satisfy.
And what about just changing the word inappropriate to inflammatory? That moves it to a whole other level of discussion.
Well, inflammatory language is often protected by the First Amendment.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
Now, on the comment about the calling people little Hitlers, I think it's one of the unwritten rules of debate that the first person to bring up the Nazis automatically loses the debate, regardless of whether they admit it or not. So, all right. Any other councilperson comments? All right.
I will go ahead and just say, I'll go ahead and let you research that before I make a motion or
Yes, sir.
anything like that,
Yep.
and see how to do it, because, you know, if there's really nothing we can do or really shouldn't be doing to stifle a comment or inappropriate language, then we probably ought to take that sentence out. And from what I'm hearing from City Attorney Andrew Thornton, he really didn't object to taking that out. So we'll, I'll see what he has to say next week, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, any other council member comments? Any other city attorney comments?
Yes, sir. I do have one. I thought I had two, but I've forgotten what the other one was. Late last week, you all might remember, we have an eminent domain / condemnation proceeding pending. Late last week, I received a settlement offer from the landowners with an appraisal attached. When Mayor Norris is back, I'm gonna sit down with him. I've also reached out, sent their appraisal to the appraiser who gave us a report, and I'm gonna be speaking with him. Also talked to this afternoon, I spoke with a lawyer at the Highway Department. Highway Department does tons of condemnation lawsuits all over the state, just to get a feel. She did confirm my she did confirm what I suspected about how juries treat these kinds of cases. They are often, juries will approach them as well. The giant municipality has a huge budget, even though it's a taxpayer money. And these poor landowners, shouldn't we just agree and give them their amount they're asking for? That is a stereotype in these kinds of cases, and she did confirm that often, yes, that's the trouble, that's the difficulty you work up against. So I'm not gonna, and after I meet with Mayor Norris and after I talk to a few other people, I'll bring it back in front of you, and we can have a full discussion about it.
Great, thank you. All right, any city clerk comments?
Mr. Pro Tem, I just have one more council comment, if you don't
Go right
mind.
ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for being the Pro Tem tonight, and I thought you did a great job for all the various conversations and motions and everything else. Thank you so much for doing this tonight.
Thank you for bearing with me there. All right, with that, I'd entertain a motion to conclude tonight's meeting.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn the city council meeting of September 16, 2024. I was trying to say Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, second, all right, all in favor?
Yes.
You mean you guys don't want to just stay, keep on going?
Let's keep partying up.